Well, hi there. Welcome everyone. Okay, this is step-by-step progress chart lesson. So let me. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the chart right now. Here, what we're going to cover in this lesson is reading, analyzing, and synthesizing the progress chart. So many of you here may be at an advanced stage in astrology, but I would like to explain a bit about progress chart for the newcomers. Do you want to know where you are in your life's journey? That's the question when it comes to, well, natal chart too, but progressed. But before I go any further, let me say that your chart is a wheel. It's round with degrees on it. So do these degrees matter? Or what do you think? They're there for a reason. So you'll notice that I will always look at the degrees. It's like a compass. So you will have to read it to know your direction. So do you think the chart lives on even after you are gone? Well, East Asian religion practices ancestor worship. So think about it. In fact, in horary astrology, when a querent or the first house person who asks the question and its significator or the planet that represents the first house person is what we call peregrine, it means that the person is wandering aimlessly. Maybe some of us do get into such a state that would last for a while, and you'll see that in your progress chart. So that's why reading the progress planets do matter. Okay. When reading progressions, assess the ascendant and the progressed inner planets. I repeat, inner planets first, with special attention to the moon. The sun's position cannot be minimized. Its average daily movement is a few seconds below 1 minute, which we call this difference the arc. That's when we say we refer to the major arc. And we're directing or progressing the chart by day for a year. But let me first explain this, because when you're directing, okay, for instance, in situation with horary, okay, we want to know when something is going to happen. Well, that's when we direct the planet to see when it's going to happen. Okay? But in, say, secondary progressions, that's a different story, because we do have planets that are in retrograde. So there's a difference between directing and progressing. So let me get back to the progression. Although I'm using solar arc progressions here, I just wanted to make the distinction between directing and progressing. So you'll see a discrepancy when you do this, because now when you're young it doesn't matter, but as you get older it does, because you know that those discrepancies do widen. So you'll see a discrepancy when you are trying to figure that out. So you can check the sidereal time in the midhaven in the Dalton table of houses. So we used to use logarithms for calculations before the computers took over. So the solar arc was used, or is still really being used. You subtract the natal sun sign in degrees of the new position and add it to all the planets, cusps, and points, like, let me see, like solstice points or part of fortune, and add it to all the planets, cusps in the natal chart. So by doing so, it allows the slower planets to move into aspects. Okay. Now, when synthesizing, you may want to look at all confirming evidences that you are on the path, wherever you are. At least you can see or confirm what's ahead. So you need to confirm the path by connecting the road back to the natal chart. And you can read the progress chart alone, but you do need to connect back to the natal chart. So the natal chart is you. As you get older, you go out to fulfill what's promised in the natal chart, and that's what this is about. Now, let's look at the ascendant in this chart. Now, I'm using the same chart as in the natal, step-by-step natal. So you may want to look back and look at that natal chart, because this is the same person, and I'm just progressing that person's chart to this date, which is May 2024. Now, I believe she was born in 80s. So let's start with the ascendant. I always start with the ascendant. Let's look at the ascendant. It's 28-degree Virgo. What does that mean? It shows that the person of the chart knows that the changing matters are already taking place. In other words, this change or whatever it is going to happen, and this person is very aware of it. Why? Because it's in the late degrees. So look at the inner planets. Let's start with Venus. Venus is about to change. See, Venus is in its fall by being in Virgo. So it's fall. When I say fall, it means fall from grace. And you will do things, stumble or whatever, but do things that makes you say, well, I'm sorry, or you're going to be sorry about. Okay? And so this is going to be a dramatic shift, because when it changes, coming out of Virgo, it'll be 0-degree Libra, which is a critical degree. And of course, you can imagine something she's going to feel a shift. So this is going to be a dramatic shift, going from its fall to dignity. So of course, the person will be in a state of crisis. And there could be a crisis, an actual crisis that happens in her life when that happens, when it hits that 0-degree Libra. So as far as timing is concerned, when things or matters come to a critical point, it's going to hit a crisis point. And that's what I was trying to say. So this person needs to figure out when this transition will occur by progressing the planet. The ruler of the ascendant is Mercury, and it is about to progress into the first house. This planet went direct in 1988. Lucky for her. So, because she was born in 1980. So check out the natal chart. This person was born with Mercury retrograde. And now it is direct and allowing the person to move forward in life. It's storming over here, so you might hear thunderstorms. No matter how you look at it, the future looks bright, because Venus will eventually be in the first house. I'm sorry, in the 12th house, and eventually could move into the first house, but it will be the ruler of the ascendant. Then look at Pluto because it is in the first house. It is in Libra, and Venus is the dispositor. And dispositor means that it represents a planet or a person who can dispose of you. And this is widely used in horary astrology. So, what I was saying is that Venus is the dispositor because it rules Libra. So Pluto is transforming the person with the authority needed. So why am I saying that? Because Pluto is in Libra and Venus is the dispositor. So she's practically in control. Although in fall right now, at the time I'm recording this, it'll eventually be in dignity. So right now Mercury is the dispositor of Venus, and it is combust by being still too close to the sun. See, you get burned by the rays of the sun. So the third step, we're going to assess the sun, and it is in Virgo, the sign of health. And Virgo also rules people working for the government as public servants, but I'll hold that for now to focus on one thing, and that's the first house. The sun is the giver of life. It is still in the 12th house, which will not change. For those who are advanced astrologers, you can look at Naibot, arc, and the wheel. Notice that the sun is separating from Saturn, okay, in this chart. So the person experiences problems when the sun conjuncted, or experienced when the sun conjuncted Saturn. Now look at the 5th house. But why am I saying the 5th house? Because that's the natural house that the sun rules. Okay, in the sun's natural house, and now it is at 0 degree Aquarius. Here we have another confirmation that the changes are underway. It's at an early degree, starting a new journey, and it's ruled by Uranus. If you look at the natural 5th house, or 5th house in this case, and the reason I'm saying the natural 5th house is because Sun naturally rules the 5th house, and I hope I didn't confuse you, but in this chart, you look at the 5th house, and the 5th house is now 0 degree Aquarius, ruled by Uranus and Saturn. So, where is Uranus? It's in the 2nd house. And what's 2nd house? It's your money. And the 5th house, where does this money come from? The 5th house. And what is the 5th house? Money from real estate or property. Now, let's look at the Sun square Neptune. It does bring about some fear, lack of confidence in cultural, religious, or philosophical advanced education because of their foreignness. This is a person who is really delving into and wants to import foreign philosophy, religion, and things that are that she's not completely familiar with. However, it doesn't matter because the malefic Neptune is in a common and Caden house. So when that change occurs, Capricorn will be in 0 degrees on the 4th house. Right? Saturn is the ruler of the Saturn is in Virgo right now, and it's the ruler of rentals or food farms. But the reason I bring that up is because Capricorn, you'll see, is intercepted in the 4th house, and it's about to make a change. As we go into a cardinal cross, this is going to change. Okay, So now, number 4, the fourth step is now look at Mars. It is exalted by being in the 10th house, but in its fall by sign, because it's in Cancer, and Mars is in its fall in the sign of Cancer, but in a past degree to Pluto in the first house. I believe this is a square. Past degree means that it's already made its square and it's moving away or separating. So this is probably surgery or problems in the abdominal area that perhaps has not, well, I guess it did manifest because it's about separating degree. But Mars is intercepted, meaning matters are held in abeyance due to some interferences. So Mars is fire, right? It's hot and it cuts. The person experiences fire in the belly when it comes to work or career. Now, the fifth step is the progressed moon that should never be overlooked. It stays in a sign for about 3 years. Remember, moon activates, right? It's the fastest planet in any chart. It indicates the change that one undergoes in those 3 years. Moon is in dignity, but in detriment in the 10th house. And this may have to do with the mother, but I'm going to have to hold that for now because we're not talking about the mother. We're talking about the person of the first house. So emotionally, this person is stable and able to take matters into her own hands to make changes swiftly, giving constraints of the commitments and obligations to parents or career. Now, since it's in the 10th house, I'm going to point this out. This is temporariness in our job and career because moon makes it so being in the 10th house. And the moon is in detriment in the 10th house. The person may have to put certain things, that means the person may have to put certain things in the back burner, so to speak. The reason this person can act or take in her career or take action in her career is because the moon is in dignity and in the highest angle, the 10th house. I'm talking about, when I say angle, I'm talking about the angular houses, 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th house. To me, those are the best houses. And if it was in Capricorn, the person would have to put his or her own needs ahead of others, like bosses, company, or any authority figures, and put them first before your own needs. That's what the moon does in the 10th house. So, but right now, that moon is in dignity, and that gives her the right, the proper authority to move things. So the 6th step is to look at the 6th house, again, 0 degrees, Pisces. That's another confirmation that the change is underway. Remember that this chart is about health, environment, food, and job. Why? Because the ascendant is in Virgo. The inner planets are in Virgo. The sun is in Virgo. So you look for confirmations by the houses the planets rule. Now look at the ruler of the 6th house, which is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. Now that's like going abroad or going into Jupiter, Neptune type of work and environment or entertainment and retreat or property matters. Now, why the sixth house? It's because we have all these stellium in Virgo. So you look at the natural sixth house. Okay, even though um, it's not ruled by any of the planets uh, that are in the Virgo stellium. You always look at the natural house. Okay? And now properties have come up. So what's with the properties? Now you look at the fourth house cusp. Jupiter rules it now. Remember, I said the sixth house now has turned to Pisces, and Jupiter is going to be the ruler. Now, that's why I'm looking at the fourth house, because it's pointing to, see, these planets, houses will all point to a certain direction. So now, so you don't just go by, one or two things. They point to a direction by the sign it's in. Okay? And the rulership. So the answer that you're looking for is all the answers are all, or answer is in the chart. So the sixth house and the fourth house are about rental properties, farm, commodities, health, or such matters. So you notice it's conversion. Okay. So now the seventh step is, let's go to Saturn. Saturn now rules the fifth house at this reading in May 2024. And we are all aware that that everything is about to change. And in Sagittarius, the person moves a lot and usually prefers to live in foreign places and cultures. Why? Because the sign is Sagittarius. So you go back to the natal chart, and the person has Uranus in the fourth house. And why is this person so obsessed with going here and there, moving? Because with Uranus there, it is uncomfortable wherever she is. So but the reason I'm bringing that up is because Saturn rules Capricorn, right? And Capricorn is intercepted in the fourth house. And when that fourth house changes, it's going to be Capricorn on the cusp. So that's the tie-up. Okay. Now, the eighth step. Well, this is really summarizing or synthesizing. Summarizing the synthesis. This is a chart that is about to turn into a cardinal cross, confirmed by the ascendant. Sixth house, inner planet, Venus, already in the first. Now, look back at the natal chart. The stellium, Leo stellium, has turned into Virgo stellium, where health matters are foremost. Right now, health matters are foremost. And remember that natal Venus is the ruler of the 10th house of highest achievement, career, credit, and person's reputation. That Venus has come into the person's first house from the 12th. Now I'm using the solar arc. The promise of the natal chart is being fulfilled. Look at the natal chart. Okay, where was Venus? And where is Venus now? That Venus is the person's highest achievement in life because it rules her 10th house. So, see, the natal chart indicates a 12th house placement of Leo, who wants to come out and claim her or his stake in life. So progressing through Virgo, the person is getting there. So what are the most notable ones? Okay, the planet. Neptune is the only retrograde planet in that chart. Planet Mercury is now direct, and most of all, Saturn is direct in your natal chart and still. So if Saturn is retrograde, things would be very different because this planet is a malefic, and in the first house in the natal chart, okay, it'll cause a lot of problems. But now Saturn too, uh, well, by progression, if you look at it by progression, the Saturn is really no longer affecting her by progression. But it really doesn't matter because the first house ascendant and first house is changing. And the fact that the natal house, the Saturn in the first house, is direct is really, really good. Okay, because Saturn in the first house is not good, but being direct is good because it was able to move. Okay, because don't forget the first house is you. So the stellium is fixed and cadent. The person with some help has managed to get to the destination. Why help? Because the ascendant ruler is in a cadent house, and that house happens to be 12th. So the progressed planets are in Virgo, still unable to initiate action without help. People with common and cadent house placements should find a situation where a counselor, friend, or relative can push the person to achieve. So if you don't have anyone you can count on, put yourself in a situation where there's no turning back and you are committed and you must move forward. So that's it for today. And that's the lesson. I think this took a long time. Um, Maybe in the future I will just shorten it and put it into two videos.